to the allegiance to the flag of the Okay, Teresa's first up tonight, and I think we have to recess our meeting and allow Maurice to open the finance meeting, correct?
Okay, we'll open the finance meeting and turn it over to Teresa.
The reason for me coming before you tonight is we have several CDs that'll be coming up for renewal here soon. And I wanted to do it with the council as well because we want to see if we want to change the amounts because the spending that's been going on lately, or if we want to keep things the same. But, you know, I kind of want to get a better idea of what you want to do. One of the first ones we have coming up is the jail one is coming up the end of November. I didn't know if you were okay with me renewing it again for the 6 months, or if there was something in the works that I needed to do something different. I just want to kind of get some guidance from you guys, kind of both boards.
I don't know anything coming out of it. That's new expenditure that's been asked for council's perspective.
Okay. Am I okay to go ahead and do the renewal for it for 6 months, or do you want to do a year? I think normally we do 6 months, but
Yeah, I feel that 6 months is best because we're getting the same interest.
they're usually pretty close.
close,
Yeah. Sometimes it's more, but lately it's been.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead and get a motion to do that?
I'd second it.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hey,
Aye.
Also, I have a few others that are coming through. I know that these other ones are not coming up until January, but I still, like I said, want to get some guidance. The lit economic development, cap development, and then the opioid restricted and unrestricted is coming up. And then the American Rescue Plan is also. So I know,
what were them? The lit,
sorry,
I'm sorry.
the lit economic development, the cap, both opioids, and the American Rescue Plan.
Got it, thank you.
With all of those, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Can we make that decision?
We could, yeah. I mean, I didn't, I just wanted to kind of get an idea, so I'm
Okay.
ahead of the game.
More than likely. It's probably just well if we wait 2 months just in case.
Yeah, so we just want to remember ARPA got money that'll be being used
They were,
pay wage adjustments.
yeah.
And I know Laura and I had talked about, we had it in just 6 months, the full amount. And when I renewed them back in July, we separated it because you did have some money that needed to be back in the fund before the end of the year. So that'll go back in the fund, but you'll still have a portion of it still. So yeah, I can come back in December and we can talk a little bit more and maybe kind of get an idea of what plans. What's that? Yeah, it sounds pretty promising, but unfortunately. Mhm. Mhm. Yes.
Unrestricted and restricted.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the finance. Okay,
Second.
okay, a motion second. Aye.
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 Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will resume our joint session. This time, Joanne.
Good evening. I've handed out packets to everybody. This again revisiting the file storage that the clerk's office is facing with the move. I have a packet of information in there from Imaging Services, Apex. I have gentlemen here tonight from US Imaging and from Fidlar Technologies. Chuck and Jeff have met, came to the meeting with Peter from Fidlar Technology about permanent storage solutions for the clerk's office. And Sheila was kind enough to come in today and walk around with me and see what exactly we're up against. And I know Maurice has a pretty good idea because he's been coming to the record and retention meeting almost monthly. So we've talked about it. I have representatives here if you guys have questions for them on cost, on services, on whatever.
Which, I guess, for us that are just trying to play catch up, yeah, which representatives for which company where?
Good evening. I'm Josh Dawson with US Imaging.
Good evening. My name is Peter Allison with Fidlar Technologies.
So the proposal,
So our companies work in conjunction. Josh's company will do all of the scanning of the images. Our software works with making that information searchable by the offices. And additionally, we'll handle all of the training and implementation with staff. So that's the relationship that we have.
You kind of go through your proposal. I know Jeff and I had met with you before, and I think at that point in time, we thought there might be an alternate for some of the other departments. That's in the proposal. Is it?
Correct. So that would involve an inventory of whether it's the assessor's office, the sheriff's, any other office has. The contract in front of you for Apex, that is for the digital search software. So a few features with that after US Imaging is able to scan all of the books or documents that you would like. We are able to then search those documents through Apex. So from a permanent retention standpoint, the scanning of the images protects those. And as Joe has mentioned, whether it is preservation, whether you want to keep things on site with retention, whatever that may be, you have a lot more flexibility with physical storage of those documents. The Apex software itself allows for efficiency for everyone in her office. So rather than having to run around to find these physical documents, you're able to pull them up on your computer in a matter of seconds to search them, to have access to give that information out to anybody who is searching. And additionally, with Apex, what we are also able to do is allow any documents that people need to receive a copy of. They are able to request that copy online through this service. and it can be a revenue generating stream for the office. That's a completely extra feature if you'd like. There's no cost of installation, but once we have all of these documents uploaded, it gives a lot of different options for the public to access the information.
In your presentation that day, there was, remember all of these books are the ones that are included in this proposal.
Correct. So that covers everything that is within the office right now. And from a budgetary standpoint, if we were to go with just the vital records from a budget standpoint with cost-wise, that would be roughly $30,000. That quote covers if there was everything in the office that was to be done. So I just want to leave that information in there so you can understand the range of the amount of information there. I know somebody on staff is able to do some of that work on her own to scan and access that. But that quote covers everything, just so you would understand the full scope of what that would be.
Right. Notice this figure was much less than what you brought tonight. Right?
Are you looking at the quote for Apex or
Yeah.
for? Oh, correct. The quote for just some of the areas that you were able to see would be in that $30,000 realm. The 120 would cover everything that was in that whole upstairs.
And what we had proposed before is that they take the books out of my vault. They take them, they scan them, they store them. That way I wouldn't have to move them. We wouldn't have to deal with them during the move and the renovation project. The cost would be $3,000 a year maintenance, and that would come out of my perpetuation fund, out of the clerk's perpetuation fund.
All the scanning be done off-site now.
So for scanning, we have whatever option you would prefer. If we would like to scan them on site, we can do that. If you would like to have them taken off site and stored and scanned there, that's an option. There's also a third option of taking them off site and only having them scanned when desired. The point of all of that is to say we can be very flexible with that based on whatever space constraints you have.
And Peter and I have talked about it, and we would feel much more comfortable having them scanned on site. So the clerk's office has custody of these books while they're being digitized.
One of the specialties of US Imaging is doing on-site scanning. So we've done on-site scanning for 90 of 92 counties in Indiana, including this county as well in the recorder's department. We scan everything in color. We convert it to a black and white TIFF image, but we scan it in color because we have the ability to enhance the records and make them absolutely gorgeous and legible. And then at the end of the project, after it's over, if anybody is searching anything, finds something that maybe is not legible or any issues with the project, we offer as US Imaging a guarantee that we'll fix that work for free forever as well. So even after the project is over, if there's any corrections need to be made, we do that for free for the county.
With today and trying to bring everything into the digital world and scan everything in, you guys find that like in a lot of the counties you work with or a lot of the groups you work with, you do everything in the county or kind of piecemealed out from
Yes.
department or?
Yeah, that kind of depends on budget, of course. I mean, we're lucky enough right now to be in the age of ARPA with those funds available. Most counties right now are trying to get everything done while that federal money is available. Because once that goes away, it's going to be a little more of a struggle to try to take stuff out of general fund or perpetuation funds to make those projects happen. So right now, and until everything has to be appropriated for ARPA at the end of 2024, most of what we're seeing is everything in the fall, or as much as they get approval to do.
We also talked that day, Peter, about 24/7 scanning or just during office hours. I don't know whether you've had a conversation about that since that time or not.
I think it'd be easier to have it done just during office hours for a security standpoint, for security reasons, because they do offer 24/7 scanning during the digitization process. But I feel like somebody from the clerk staff would have to be there all the time, and I know I can't stay awake that long.
And that brings up a good question. We've had this conversation before about, I would assume with your company, you have some kind of you know, like folks that work in the clerk's office has to go through a background check and
Yeah.
everything to be qualified to look at all documents and be able to scan things in, I guess, without having somebody from the clerk's office have to babysit you full time.
Right.
I don't know that that's really cost effective for the county because we're, you know, once again, we're a small county. We don't have gigantic staff to have
Right.
stay with one person. So how does that work? I mean, what can you do and what can't?
Yep, so we will give you national background checks on any employees that would be in the building. We do try to push for 24-hour access whenever possible because it does save the county money to have us there for 24 hours a day. So whether we're there for 8 hours a day or whether we're there for 24 hours a day, it's the same per day fee because we have hotels, food for our employees. So it actually saves the county money if we can do 24-hour access. We provide those background checks to you. We can provide references of every county around your county that we've done it for. And I'm pretty sure we've had 24-hour access for your recorder as well. So that, I mean, we've already been through it here in the county. But yeah, we would provide all that information. All the employees are employees of US Imaging. We don't hire temps. We don't go out for service. They're all had background checks done on them and national ones at that.
And then the other side of that, of course, is my proposal to make my voter registration part-time deputy full-time. And I think what we discussed in a perfect world would be to have US Imaging take the books specifically out of my vault and have this position do document retention as well. So somebody who's trained in the clerk's office can scan these files into Odyssey. And per the record and retention schedule, the clerk judicial record and retention schedule, then we can decide what files we can physically destroy. So we can take up a much smaller footprint in the courthouse when we move back in.
And if I could just speak to one part with that as well, we actually have a remote indexing team that could do a very similar job to what she was requesting. And based on the amount of documents, I believe that quote was in the six-figure realm for what it would take for an independent person to do just that role and nothing else within her office. So for reference, that would be the cost if we were to handle that.
I guess maybe that's where, and I've had a number of conversations, and maybe that's where I sometimes have a little harder time wrapping my head around. Maybe because I wasn't one of the gentlemen that had the opportunity to also with you guys to understand what all's going to be done. But when I think about it in my mind, I guess in this quote, you're just doing the stuff that's in. You're just doing part of it, and then there's more that has to be done later on, you know, that still has to be done. You're not doing all of it right now. Catch it. I guess what I'm looking for is, or I guess easy answer is, today we have this that needs to be done. Be caught up tomorrow and say, everything's done. All we have to do is continually keep up with new records that come in from, let's say, January 1st. Is that what you guys are doing? Or are you just doing part of it, and then there's still a bunch of stuff there that still has to be done in-house?
So that quote that I have for you would cover the total scanning project with that $122,000, I believe is what it is, with $20,000 in project management. That would cover everything that is within the office. Now, the information that would be roughly the books in the office, that would be roughly $30,000 to do. The books that we have that Jolyn was originally discussing, those are documents that tend to be either accessed more readily or can be moved to an alternate site after they've done for the space in the courthouse. The other documents that she's referencing, it is, and please wrong, it is going to be more on historical data, preserving of information that needs to be uploaded, even if it's just for the sake of the physical document, and that could be done on a different timeline. So that is not as urgent of something that has to be done all at once by us.
And according to the clerk judicial record and retention schedule, there are certain files that we have to keep permanently. Adoptions, guardianships, murder cases, divorces, they have to be kept permanently in two forms. So we have all of those files that we're going to have to keep one way or another. And if we can get them digitized and get them scanned, like I said before, I can open up 3 rooms in that courthouse for other use.
But yeah, and I guess that was the question I was trying to ask is 3 rooms that we can open up in the courthouse. Are you guys doing all the stuff to open up them 3 rooms, or is part of it being done by them and then part of it would be being done by the full-time person you're asking?
Right. Part of it would be done by them, mostly, like I've said, the books, some of the permanent documents that we've talked about too. And then as Becky has time, or whoever's in that position, I say Becky because she's here now, whoever's in that position would go through, because these, as far as these go, it is, she's chosen a case type. She's chosen small claims, and they have to be gone through each file individually, page by page, to see what's been done. And for, even just for the small claims, whether there's been a release of judgment, we have to keep it for so long. If no action's been taken in 10 years, we have to do this. So it is extremely time consuming.
And what she's referring to is the question of, do you scan everything and you just digitize it and make it accessible? Or do you go through, find the retention schedule for different document types, destroy the things that you can destroy and get rid of, and then only scan the things that you need to scan at the end of the day? So that's kind of what she's referring to in that regard. She's proposing that you would go through the cases, take the things out that do not need to be scanned, so that you're not spending money on scanning documents that you would not need to keep, as the retention schedule.
Exactly right. Kinda, but she never really got into the clerk files. I think she did some of the books in my vault, in the clerk vault, but not as far as the clerk files go. There are scabbards and boxes of original documents from the 1800s that are in the microfilm room that have never been scanned. And again, it's going to have to be going through each document individually to see what case type it is.
Annoying task.
We're never going to be paperless.
Pardon me?
We're never going to be paperless. That was goal with going to Odyssey, but they still generate files. They still generate paper files. And it's a monumental task. You've seen it, and you didn't even see the basement of the Justice Center. I took Sheila over there this morning.
Yes, that would be the vital record books, the books in the.
That would be in that 122,000, that was all encompassing of the office.
That would be, yeah, that would not, no, not everything in the basement, everything period that you're referring to. I don't think that quote was written because at the scope of looking at what everything was, it was going to be, it was going to be over $1 million. That one I would have to see, because I can tell you exactly.
And then there's an additional 20,000 on that 142 for project management, or that's included in the 142?
That would be additional. That is in project management aspect is obviously prorated relative when the training aspect. So that is where we come in. We do all of our training in person and on site. And we're also a continued support. So if there are any questions on a daily basis, we have a full support team. And my role and our partner relationship manager's role is to always come through your office and visit to make sure we're checking in and staying in front of problems as well.
So that figure that Jeff and I was given during the presentation, 144,179.
I don't have enough of my perpetuation fund to pay for all of it. I think I've got 94,000.
So
Nathan, if we're saving moving expense by getting rid of some of these files, is there anything in the remodel budget that was going to be in for moving expense that could be tweaked a little?
I have always expected that there would be some document retention budget in there. We've been paying the part-time person who's been getting the auditor's books scanned with the budget, or well, with my office's budget to be reimbursed. And as a placeholder, I do currently have $100,000 in the proposed budget for document retention.
But this is only one department. We may use that in the assessor's office.
That-
Payroll, or-
It is just, it's there as a placeholder until we know what the bids look like and we have we know how much room we have to work with and how much we need to allocate in the final adopted budget. But there is some there already set aside, yes.
I do. I need to keep some of it back. I really do. It's a cumulative fund, and they legislatively just increased some of the fee amounts that go into perpetuation. And like their proposal, what they were talking about, the online payment, that would go straight into perpetuation.
Yep. If we scan your vault, the upstairs room that you use for loading stuff, in the basement room,
There's two.
yeah, not the justice basement, just the basement, that one room, that's all.
Saying there are two rooms in the basement.
No,
There's part of the old assessor's corner there and there, the old EMA office.
the old EMA, yeah. And that's the room that she's working on right now. Collectively, my staff is, yes.
So if we did the vault upstairs in one of the basement rooms, does that get her caught up to the point where she's able to scan everything and kind of keep up, I guess, if she's not backlogged forever?
I don't know. It's hard to say. It's very labor intensive.
I can offer some clarification on this. So what is in this quote right here are the books that exist in the basement, upstairs, and in the vault. Those are books all over the courthouse because there's books in different locations. The paper, there is also paper in some of those locations. And this does not include the paper files. That's kind of what she's referring to as staff needs to go through those and take the pages out. This would be for all of the books that are in the courthouse. That's what this would be for.
So when is the rest of it dealt with that it's going to be over $1 million?
That would be everything.
That would be the paper. That would be every book and paper in the courthouse and all the rooms of the courthouse and also in the basement of the Justice Center. That would be for everything.
Or my question is what's the plan on when that'll be dealt with?
Well, that's what we're talking about, is having them do the books
Okay,
and take the books. And then as the paper files go that we have, then my staff goes through them file by file by file.
okay.
And discard those don't need, right?
I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think kind of where Maurice was headed was, we're talking right now about clerk's office. We have a whole county of stuff. And I've talked with Jolene about this as well, putting together a plan for county. I know right now, and I understand Jolene's thing as the clerk is worried about the clerk's office. And I understand 110%, and that's what I'd be worried about too. Unfortunately, I also have to worry about the whole county. So I'm looking at, $1 billion sounds to me crazy astronomical for scanning books. I don't do that for a living though, so I'm not sure. But I guess, that's my thing is if we have to retain documents, digitally, or we're paying for storage and somebody has to go dig them books out and hand them, what plans are out there? Other counties have to be, we're not the first one we're not blazing the trail here. Others are doing this. So, how do we, as a county, how do we fiscally tackle this? I'm asking you guys a question because you're the experts on this board, not that you have the answer, but how do counties tackle situations like this? we don't have, $2 million just laying around to go write a check for. So how do they handle this as a global problem within the county to be able to retain documents, keep up with everything? I guess I don't know what the big picture is.
Yeah, absolutely. So what most counties do is each department looks at what are the records that are used most often? What are the most active records? Those are the best candidate for scanning because you're going to get a return on that investment because they're the most used and you're going to save time. In most cases, they're generating revenue, and that's the first place they go. What is the most active? The second place you would go in every department has like an active that they're using every day. Then they have okay, retention says I have to keep this forever. So now I have that. That's the second phase. Third phase is, okay, I've got all of this other stuff that I have to go through first because, every county, as you guys know, they just have boxes of records, paper everywhere. And so someone actually has to go through that and go through the retention schedule and say, what do we even have to keep? So, if the retention schedule says you have to keep it forever, well, that's easy. If you got to keep it forever, you scan it, you get rid of the paper, okay, you're done. You've got that forever. Most active records, usually the most active records, you also have to keep forever in most cases. So like the treasurer generally is doing tax rolls, tax books. The clerk is doing vital records first, then they're going to historic, other book types, then they're going to paper. And that's kind of the order that they're going. Auditors have transfer records and plat maps. So those are generally the first thing that the auditor is going through. The recorder's doing their land records because almost every record in the recorder's office they have to keep forever. So the recorder's generally doing most of all their deeds and miscellaneous and mortgage records, things like that. County clerks are also doing like commissioner meeting books, minute books. Those are often done as well. But it's just really about what do you have to keep forever and what is being used all the time. Those are the two big questions. And that's every department kind of has to go through that and figure that out for themselves. But companies like me, I can generally come into an office and I can take a look at the records and say, okay, based off of my knowledge, this is kind of the order that you would go in. In a perfect world, you'd get everything scanned, but we know that not everybody has 50 million laying around to scan everything in the county. So you just start at one place that's most active, and then you just start working back in time. That's pretty much how every department does it.
Help me understand the revenue stream. Yes.
Okay. So some records generate revenue in the county because they get copy fees for them, or the constituent comes in and they have to pay some type of fee to get a copy of that record. And so that's generating revenue. So the fact if you digitize those records, you don't have to go to the books. You don't have to go to the film. You can just do it at the computer. It takes an employee, 30 seconds to do what would take 10 minutes.
Okay, so that sounds like it's going to generate revenue and save time.
Correct.
Then through that as well, outside sources are able to go online, I presume, to some kind of a portal or whatever, and be able to access records. And there's some way you put a credit card number in or whatever that generates a return.
Absolutely. So that is our service called Official Records Online. So with that, the goal is that it is a revenue generating, it's also efficiency saving. So in Indiana, if you would like to request something online, we still have to have that wet signature. It can't just be sent out over the internet necessarily. So you can request that document so that it can be sent in, and there is a queue that the workers in the office can go through, and there's whatever response time you'd like to set it to, 24, 48 hours, 72. You can have that copy of the document available, and all of the payment is handled online through Fidlar, our Official Records Online. You can set whatever fee you would like for that. And then we work out a service fee on our end as well too. But there's no fee for you to use anything on that. We are able to send you that payment and handle all of that once a quarter as you receive that. But it gives you an opportunity to create that revenue online and also reduce the foot traffic coming into the office requesting documents. And if somebody is requesting it, it does not require that 10 to 15 minute walk to find the documents while someone's chit-chatting in your office.
So I know we're talking about two topics, but it sounds to me like it's going to save some time.
That is That
Well,
is
now,
our
wait a minute,
goal.
you're missing my point. Everyone's agreeing, but aren't we going to save some time with that? And the same person is needed to go full-time to enter it. How does that workload work? I'm not understanding how that workload.
Scanning everything, so there's still so many files sitting there that are, and then there's gonna continue to keep getting files because people are.
Yeah.
Like, they're not getting us caught up.
Okay, I understand. But then that person is going to be also doing marriage license and answering phones. I guess I'm not quite sure.
All of the other duties of the clerk's office,
Yeah,
just
yeah, okay.
what we do.
Yeah,
I guess that kind of comes back to some of the conversation that's had is, you know, is that going back to kind of like what Mike said, you know, we had Jan on, did microfilms. So go back to the point that, this doesn't necessarily, this discussion more for our group, but, you know, does it go back to the point of if there's that much retention of documents? Go back to, well, or do we need that position reestablished for whatever reason? Be able to retain documents in the county, you know, because I know at the moment, that's my concern is at the moment, you know, we have, you know, one spot that needs attention dramatically because it has a lot of records. We have, all the offices have to retain records as well. So, you know, that may be a discussion as to how do we build that program into the county, trying to solve one problem, but looking at what it's going to be as a whole picture at the end of the day.
because if every department needs to create a position, take care of records, that's going to be a little bit of a problem.
Oh, well, let's face it, the clerk's office has more records than just about any other office because we service both courts.
I understand.
And then when they did dissolve Janet's position, the documents in the microfilm room came back under the custody of the clerk's office because they are clerk documents. They were taken out in those scabbards, taken out of the clerk's vault when the vertical file rolling files were installed. So those are clerk files. I guess I guess the best way to explain it, what I'm proposing is having this taken care of, but instead of paying $1 million in one lump sum, spread it out by making this position full-time and still getting it done.
Could be done with current staff. It would just take long, right?
Yeah, a long time. Because my current staff, they're so busy, they're swamped, they don't have the time right now to be scanning too. Like I've said before, Jennifer comes in half an hour, 15 minutes early, and she runs through some documents in the morning. They will work through lunch, just trying to get different case types done, and it's a very slow process.
I know the council spent a lot of time, you know, on giving raises and, trying to find money to do that. What's, need to hear some thoughts from that side of the table.
Well, I'll go back to my question. How much are you willing to spend out of your perpetual fund?
Towards what, the digitization or towards her, with them? I mean, that's what it's for, but I'd like to keep some in it. 40, 50, I know, I'm trying to calculate, Jeff.
We really can't make any decisions without having solid numbers. We're just talking and we're not going to be able to make any decisions. Okay. Yeah.
She says she has 94,000.
All right.
Nathan says he has some money that, he could throw to it, so.
And these guys said that most other counties are using backup funds. So between the three of those things, it should at least get the first batch of digitizing, right?
Yeah, so public out,
The issue with that is these books, is that when that was what kind of Those books. You know, there's a bunch in your vault. There was a bunch downstairs, right? And I guess maybe we didn't go upstairs. I don't remember a bunch of books upstairs. Is there some upstairs too, Joanne?
Not so much.
And are we talking just those great big books?
Yeah. And the ones around the top of in my vault, they're all different. Yes. Yeah.
The third option that Peter had talked about is another option that we give to counties, which we call basically scan on demand, where we can store the records. We have a 40,000 square foot facility where we store records. We're bonded by the state. We're HIPAA compliant. It's a secure facility. And we can store all of the paper. And then we can scan as her office needs things out of that. We can scan what she needs out and transmit to her as a scan on demand option. So that will alleviate the space constraints and then still give access to the records. But then her staff would not be able to go through the records and take out the things that wouldn't need to be. You'd be storing them off site at our facility in Michigan. That is another option, and that alleviates that. But scanning everything that she's got on there are basically like the most requested records and the most saved records.
And I have included in your packet one other option too. I met with a gentleman from Tri-State Systems. They do high density document storage. And for about $20,000, they can build us kind of like what I currently have in my vault, the vertical rolling open-faced files in the basement of the Justice Center. It doesn't have to be permanent. They can be taken out. They can be moved. But they do offer this high-density file storage for a fraction of the cost. And that would allow my staff to get the files and scan them as they have time to, or for Becky to do it as she has time to. They also offer shipping of books. We can send all those books down to Indianapolis. They can go down to Indy, and they offer that as a service as well. So are you looking for a solid number on, like, do you want the perpetuation fund to cover the scanning of the books? Is that what you're asking? Probably about 50,000, 50 to 60. I don't think it regenerates that fast is the thing.
I don't know, from my side, I think we've had a good presentation. We've had some good information. I don't think listening to the group, I don't think any of it, I know myself. I don't feel even close to confident enough to understand this well enough at this point in time. To be able to say, we're going to go left or right, because, you know, even here we have a couple different options that are proposed to us. You know, I think, personally, I think we need to kind of step back now and ask more questions of other departments, of Jolene, other people. You know, we have your contact information now. We can reach out to you guys, ask specific questions. To get I work as a service engineer. I do planning. I want to feel a plan. I'm not sure that we're at that point yet. We really have a vital plan that we can actually say we're stepping right into where we want to
Do you want to set some time to meet with me one-on-one and we can go over some of this stuff?
go. I would love to. About 2 weeks. I won't be here. Unfortunately.
That's
But
right.
yes.
Okay.
What's our time frame in moving this stuff, Nathan?
Well, as of the movers are scheduled for the Thursday, Friday, and Monday, Tuesday before Thanksgiving for the other offices, and the week after Thanksgiving for the clerk's office. The tentative first day on site for the construction company is the 5th of December. That's all going to be mobilization stuff. Actual knocking out of plaster, et cetera, probably looking at around the middle of December. So by the first week of December at the latest, the stuff's got to be somewhere. And it's just a question of whether movers are moving it, or a third party doing scanning is moving it, or we're moving it in-house, depending on what the plan is for digitization.
What would be your gentleman's time frame if something was decided sooner than later?
As far as if we were going to take the books back to our facility and scan them at our facility to get them out of the building, we can do that within, we can do that before Thanksgiving. We could schedule that and get those records out of there. The scanning of records, we're typically about 45 days out from sign date to start scanning if we're doing it on site where we come to the county. So that's pretty typical to where we're at. And in that case, we're probably looking at less than 2 weeks to scan the records on site.
That's if it's only during work hours or?
And so if we're looking at during work hours, that's probably going to be more like a month to scan them if we're only working through business hours.
If it's going to save the county time and money, then I will entertain them doing the 24-hour scan, if that's what you guys would rather have.
I think for being cost effective, unfortunately, and all, and if they have the background checks and
Right.
all, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
And it's-
comfortable using the company to take care of that and make it move as quickly as possible.
And the time factor, certainly, with the amount of time it would take to get it done. So what do you fellows think about?
Part of them's been used,
Salaries?
being used for salaries are quite important.
I don't want to
Sure,
take
that-
away from that.
What's that?
I don't want to take away from that. As far as ARPA funds, I don't want to take away from pay raises.
But if you're gonna continue taking that added wage out of the ARPA fund, then
They made a comment that it has to all be, you guys made a comment that it has to be used by the end of 2024.
No, it's
It just has to be appropriated by the end.
spent by 2026, I think. Yeah, there is some sustainability that would come for those salaries from the same ARPA fund also. Talking about 20 or 60,000, that might be worth moving this project along and care of records. Thoughts?
So we've got two decisions. One of them is records and another one is, full-time position. Can we separate those two decisions or, all right?
Yeah.
And which, proposal are you recommending? So I think that's beneficial, which one you like to see or recommend on the records.
The books.
All right. Books. And what is that amount or which one is that so I can correct one?
That would be for all of them.
123 plus the management.
Yep, plus the management as well. And that would be our
Total is the
continued.
144, 179.70 that you'd give for.
Right, so I
With
make,
that, all ARPA funds then would have to come up with about 90. Department is coming up with the rest. About a two-third, one-third. Two-third, one-third split on the funding of it.
So I'd make a motion to go ahead with that.
So I would second it. Other discussion,
In that
comments
motion.
from the council? It's our vote. I
It's
know.
ultimately your decision.
Well, we told you where the money might come from, so
So in that motion, do we need to state where the funds are coming from? Okay, okay, so, 50,000 in Jolene's and 90,000 ARPA.
more than that. Stay with the balance coming from ARPA.
With the balance coming from ARPA.
Any other discussion? 24-hour scanning.
24-hour access, which,
Another question. Beyond that, you would still owe for housing and
Nope,
It's all yours.
that is an all-in price.
and the 24-hour access, how much time will you need to have that 24-hour access? I mean, how much time on the,
So about 2 weeks, correct?
Yeah, I believe it's,
Something like that.
exact time.
and how much time for, like, does someone need to be there all the time? Okay, so it's just a matter of, so it's not going to be a huge burden. It's just a matter of coordinating. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. It's at a maximum, it's a maximum of 13 days
Okay,
on site.
all right.
And you're just 2 weeks out on that, you say?
We're typically, from starting projects, we're typically 45 days out from starting. So we are going to be starting a project the first week of November in Park County. So I may be able to tack it onto that, so we might be able to get a little sooner. I might have to check on that, but I can absolutely do that.
Well, that's certainly one of the reasons for moving forward with it is to give Nathan doesn't lose any more here, trying to get things moved.
I do have a quick question also. You said that's a maximum of 13 days?
Yep.
So you're comfortable at looking at what's there and saying everything that's in them boxes and stuff will be done in 13 days? Or
This-
that's a maximum of 13 days, and if it takes longer, then there's more cost that comes?
So it is not for the paper records and boxes, it's for the
Right,
books,
for the
right?
books.
But yeah, so all of our throughputs, we're pretty comfortable with how fast everything scans and what our throughputs are and everything. That's part of the discovery process that I came out and did. So yeah, it's maximum of 13 days. If it were to go another day or two, yeah, we would bill for those days, absolutely. But the 13 days, we're very rarely over, for the simple fact that we have a schedule that's, 1.5 to 2 months out. So we have to be on time for everything. I will state as well, in the pricing and everything, we bill for actual totals. So when the project comes in, 99.9% of these projects are under budget. And so if it comes in under budget, you pay less. That's just what it is. But the totals we build in are comfortable at not going over budget.
I assume you have a contract that you provide county and all?
Yeah, all that stuff would go through Fidlar, because Fidlar would be doing the software and the management of the project. So that would all come from Fidlar.
That would need to be reviewed by our county attorney as well. So any motion, I would think, pending county attorney approval.
Right.
We can absolutely provide that information.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Meetings, go on.
Yeah.
We want to table all this other stuff so you can have your meeting?
Our meeting technically should start on time, so we could, but we already have people here, so. But according to our agenda, ours starts at 7, so we either need to recess this meeting and reconvene at the end of ours, or there's still a lot on this to cover.
Oh, we're infringing on your time, so make the call.
We're supposed to start our agenda.
We approve and sign the joint minutes. So I would make a motion I've reviewed those minutes, and I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented on the 8/14/23 meeting.
Moved and seconded on the minutes. Favor say aye.
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 I'll entertain a motion from the council to approve and sign the joint session minutes of our previous of 8/14. All right, we have a motion. Have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Passes. Jeff made the motion.
Brad second.
Chuck, before you adjourn, the one thing in my report I really need to cover is that I need to get a special meeting of the commissioners on the schedule for either the 30th or 31st of this month or the 1st of November at the latest. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there, pretty much any time of day. But for some lease-related things, we need to have a special public hearing that date so that we can cut the project cost by a couple $100,000.
Oh,
All right.
have a motion. Nathan, to move forward.
If I email you all or text you all, just let me know what time works, and I need, so I can get the legal notice.
Have a special meeting. Yeah, so, yeah, I would make a motion to move forward with that.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anything else on here, Ken, that you want to cover tonight? Or some of these things may be able to be done just in our council and commissioner meeting?
Yeah, I mean, the only one that kind of needs to get addressed will be one with health office.
Right.
We can, suppose we could be in our meeting, then that's it. On if we quickly.
Okay, fine. Not shut us off.
All right, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, we'll go ahead and, it's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and start our council meeting. And we will recess it